Hello, my friends. Once again, Luiz Lima here, broadcasting from Orlando, Florida. This is Spiritism, a closer look. We do this via Cardiac Radio every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So, welcome to the program once again. Tonight, we are going to do something slightly different. I have compiled or selected from questions and suggestions and comments that we get via email and social media, people asking for things and, like I said, suggestions and comments, and that happened throughout the year in different lives that we did with different topics. So what I did is I selected all of that and compiled so we can kind of address in this program here. So we have about 4 or 5 topics that we are going to discuss, and let's see if we can address all the questions that we were asked. So first one has to do with human justice versus divine justice. We did a live on this, but I think we had to maybe speak a little bit more about this. So why is human justice, right, so far from divine justice? Well, there's a few considerations here. To be just, you need to know the truth. Otherwise, you can't be just. So, justice ties into knowing the truth. Being just ties into knowing the truth. Our truth, human truth, is all fragmented. We don't have the entire truth, we have parts of it. So, our truth is all fragmented. That being said, it means our justice, human justice, is all fragmented because it doesn't have all, we don't have the whole truth to make a good judgment on things. So, for example, this is Spirit Emmanuel tells us that our justice, human justice, looks into what he calls the manifest cruelty, meaning it's a spot. What happened at that time, at that point, right there. So, based on that, we make a judgment, and that's how our justice system works. Divine justice does not look into the fact itself only, it looks into the whole spiritual history of the spirit from simple and ignorance to the point of the whatever situation it was. So, it's a lot more uh, input to make a judgment. So, of course, because the criteria is different, the result is different, the outcome is different. Our outcome is never going to be the same as divine justice. When I say fragmented truth, maybe that's one of the things we need to explain a little better. I think I mentioned that before. Think of a tennis game, and you go to the stadium. You're at the court. You're looking at from one of the seats available, and then these guys, they when the ball comes in, it comes in at like 90 kilometers per hour, 120 kilometers per hour. It's incredible speeds, and of course, the ball is going to hit the floor somewhere. It could be inside the court, barely inside, barely outside, or it can be exactly on top of the line. Now, how can you say if you where it hit with precision, looking at something at 120 kilometers per hour? We don't have, our eyes don't have that ability. So think about, you're at the stadium looking at the game, and there's, let's just say, 10,000 people, 10,000 seats in the stadium, all around, right? So all around the stadium. So from the spot that you are, when you saw, the ball hitting the court, for you, let's just say you said you hit outside. Okay. So the guy sitting 3 seats away from you, he looks and says, "No, it was inside because I was at the stadium and I saw it. So did I." and somebody else on the other side of the court is going to say something different. So depending on where you are seated, you're going to have a different impression, a different perception. So the perception is fragmented because it's not the same for everybody. Each one has a little bit of the truth. I can give my 2 cents on what the situation was. Somebody else gives their 2 cents, and so on and so on. So until we should be, and then we should be able to mount from these fragments, mount the truth. However, to do this, and this is what the important part is, I would have to be physically present, sitting at all 10,000 seats at the same time. It's not that we're going to let's play a second game and now I'm going to sit somewhere else. Now we're going to play a third round and we're going to sit somewhere else. No, at the same time, I would have to be sitting at all 10,000 seats. Then I would have a non fragmented truth. Then I could do a judgment, a perfect judgment. We can't do that. That requires omnipresence, being present in all the places at the same time, in all the 10,000 seats around the court. By being omnipresent, I would be able to know everything because I've experimented all possible seats. So now, I know everything. And then with those things, I become omnipotent because now I can make a judgment. Now I have the power to make my judgment. Now, these things are attributes, not mine, not yours. They are attributes of God. That's why justice, divine justice, and human justice are different because the criteria is different. Our criteria is all fragmented. Okay, so that is the first thing we had to touch bases here. Second thing, there was a lot of people talking about diseases and vices or wrongdoings. Yeah, we spoke about that. The imperfections of the soul, or the vices, as we usually say, the imperfections of the soul will be stamped in the body as imperfections of the body. What is an imperfection of the body? It's the conditions that allow for diseases, illnesses, because they don't start in the body. They are stamped onto the body as a reflex of what the soul is. So the imperfections of the soul are passed along to the perispirit, and this one gets, let's put it this word, sick. And from there, it goes to the physical body, which again gets sick. So it's like a chain of reactions. And because it's a chain of reactions, it's not something that happens right away. The minute that I, get involved in a certain vice, my body feels. No, it's the transfer to the body of these imperfections of the soul. They take time. And again, it only prevails, the transfer of these imperfections, they only prevail because of the repetitiveness of our wrongdoings. We keep insisting on them. If we had a wrongdoing taking place once and never again, this thing would not get to the body, but we do it all the time. Different vices, different combination of vices, and then we insist on those. We've had several different opportunities to clear them off. Each one is an incarnation, and of course we haven't done that yet because our level of evolution is too low. If you think about the spirit scale, so we're still down here. Spirits that are higher on the scale have passed this a long time ago. So it does happen because we insist in the same wrongdoings. And degenerative diseases, for example, they mark the end of a cycle. That's all. And after this, they need to be evaluated and understood after discarnation to avoid duplication on the next life. That's an errant spirit. Errant spirit means a spirit that's discarnated, and it's going to take a look at its past life. So you will plan for the next life with different purpose, so it has a different outcome. So diseases are related to our wrongdoings, our vices, as we say. Another thing that I was asked about was abortion. We had a live on that, abortion. So let me just summarize everything here that we spoke on that day. To define if something is if an action is an abortion or not, first we have to define the beginning of life, where exactly life starts. And there is no common sense, there is no common ground on this thing. Different people, different belief system, different cultures, they all look into this, and we don't have the same opinion. So what does Spiritism say? And that's what we go by, because we are talking about abortion under the Spiritist light. What is the definition of life for Spiritism? Where does it start? Let me tell you this: when the group of sperms around the egg, they are all around the egg. One of them is going to break in through the membrane and go to the center. The time that passes between when it opens the membrane and it makes its way into the center, that time is 4 minutes. When it gets to the center of the egg, the two protoplasm, male and female protoplasms, are gonna get into a fusion. There's gonna be a fusion of both. That fusion takes 15 minutes. While that happens, a fluidic tie, which is an extension of the perispirit of the incarnating spirit, I'm going to use the word grab, so grabs that. It is able to connect to that during fusion. So the fluidic tie, which is very thin at the beginning, will take place right after the fusion. That is called conception. This is conception. For Spiritism, life starts at conception. So after the fusion of the two protoplasms and the fluidic tie attaching itself, any type of interference in the process is considered abortion. It could be 1 nanosecond after that. It could be 3 days. It could be 12 weeks. Anything after that, after the attachment to the fluidic tie, is considered abortion, because it will take place after conception. So, meaning a life has already started. So, for God's eyes, this is crime. For Spiritism, it's crime. Now, there are some special situations here. For example, rape. You see, what we're talking about here does not look into the origin of the connection between the two bodies. It doesn't look into that. It looks into the process of the sperm and the egg only. So in our society, we discuss a lot, should we allow this or that because of rapes and stuff? For Spiritism, which is the same as for God's eyes, if there's a pregnancy on the way, it's going to be abortion. If you stop it, if you interfere, it's going to be abortion. Another situation, for example, which we see a lot, by the way, let's say unplanned, not planned or unexpected pregnancy, meaning, there was a sexual act, but they were with no intention to start a pregnancy. It happened, and both male and female become surprised by that and say the woman doesn't want it, or even the man, one of them or both. They don't want it. They want to stop the process because they were not counting on such a thing. It was not planned. There are several cases, and that would be abortion, period. But there are several cases where the woman will not stop the pregnancy, but she will mentally induce abortion by kind of bringing this energy. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I didn't. It was not on my plans. It's gonna, throw my life in a different direction that I was expecting. So there's a tremendous feeling of rejection, and that is thrown like if the embryo or the fetus were the guilty one. That energy, that mental negative energy, can cause rupture and stop the pregnancy. First, because the energy itself, it's not good. It's bad energy. Second, because there's a spirit in there, and the spirit might decide to back out. Say that's it. It's not going to be good. This is going to be ugly. This is not what I need for my life. I need a different kind of experience, and I'm going to back out and wait for another opportunity. So yes, the woman can mentally induce abortion. Those are special cases, and in cases like that, abortion of any form, mentally or not, or physical. How do we fix that? How can the woman fix that? Reparation, for example, could be adoption. You don't have the opportunity. You might have been given the opportunity to kind of offset what you did, so you can take in, another child that needs parents or needs to be taken care of. You can take it in. It's a form of uh, offsetting the situation. So abortion in our society is still complicated because in our society, not only the US, any country, any society, within that society, you have different moral values depending on the person. You have different cultures. There's a mix of belief systems. So there is no one voice only. There's several voices, and it's hard. So when we try to put laws to, address the situation through our legal systems, it becomes complicated. For Spiritism, it's not complicated. It's very simple. There's a before and after. There's a transition point. Before this point is not abortion. After that point, it is, period. Another thing that I got a lot of questions, more people asking to speak a little bit more on the progress of the soul. So the progress of the soul happens in let's say, two avenues: moral progress and intellectual progress. Sometimes we come in, we incarnate to do, for example, intellectual progress only, very little, maybe no moral progress. But on another life, it could be the other way around. I come in to do very little, almost no intellectual progress, but a lot of moral progress, develop morality and stuff like that. They don't have to, they will not happen in the same proportion. One interesting thing is, if you look at the world itself, humanity, go back, let's say 150 years, when the Industrial Revolution was just getting started. So in the last 150 years, we did a lot more intellectual progress than moral progress. Compared to intellectual progress, moral progress apparently was, very little. However, there will be a time in the future, and I think it's kind of close, where it's going to be the other way around. We're going to stop on all this intellectual progress at the speed that we have seen, and we are going to a phase of more moral progress, because morality is, it's disappearing. Our societies, all of them, almost all of them, are at the edge of a moral bankruptcy. So, and we know that. We all know that. And a lot of people, a lot of groups are already calling for more attention towards that. So I think it's at one point it's going to happen. However, and this is one of the questions in the Spirit's book that Allan Kardec wanted to address and make sure. So he asked the spirits, what comes first, moral or intellectual progress? And the Spirit says intellectual progress, because you need to be able to have more discernment to make better choices, to make better moral choices. So, improving your ability to make these choices, which is intellectual progress, will cause you to give yourself, because it's free will, but give yourself the opportunity to improve morally. So intellectual progress comes before moral progress. So, and we don't do this progress on the same pace. Each one of us has, we have our own pace, because it's based on free will. So I might just, come into this life and say, I don't want to do any progress. I'm just going to go to the beach every day. That's my choice. Of course, it's not good for me, and I'm going to know for sure when I get out of this life. I'm going to say, wow, I didn't do anything, wasted my time. But it's free will, and free will is respected no matter what. So intellectual progress comes before moral progress. One other subject that we are going to speak a little bit here to end our life is the loss of loved ones. It's a difficult thing, because nobody likes to lose a loved one. Of course, we are going to cry, we're going to be sad. Of course, it's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. What can be a problem is how much of that saddening process, how much of this heavy baggage do I carry with me? So, for example, let's say a loved one passed away, let's just say 30 years ago, and the person is still living as if it was yesterday or maybe this morning. That's where the problem is, because you shouldn't stop your life. You cannot. You came here to do something with your life positive. So life should go on, as we say. Now, there are a few things that I want to throw in here. First of all, when somebody loved one dies, passes away, again, of course, we're going to be sad. But we should, on the other hand, we should celebrate their lives. We should celebrate the opportunity that we were given to be with them for a certain number of years, whatever it was. I mean, that's a gift. We were given that opportunity. If we think that person lived for, let's just say here, 30 years, and we expected that person to be here for 70 years, come on, it could have been 5. We were given the gift to have that person with us for 30. So we usually don't see it this way. Spiritism puts an emphasis on this thing. Focus on the good things, celebrate their lives. You can't change. You're not going to be able to bring the person back. So willing to have the person, the physical body here, it's not going to take you anywhere. So let's celebrate the life of that person. Let's, mentalize good about it. Let's send prayers to that person. You see, letting go. Think about this. This is what Spiritism teaches us. Letting go is the easy part. Holding on is hard. And we do exactly the other way around. We try to hold on for years and years and years. That's very hard, because it puts a lot of suffering upon us and them, because they're looking at us, they're watching us. So holding on is very hard. Letting go is easy, but we usually don't want to do that. You see, that's the twist that Spiritism gives us. And a lot of things that Spiritism teaches us, it's all like this twist. And why is that? I've mentioned this here before. Think about a portal, okay? You are on this side of the portal. When you cross it, you're going to be on the other side. When you look at things from this side, you see one image, one perception. When you go to the other side and you look at from the other side, it's a different perception. So Spiritism teaches us to look at things as if we were on the other side. That's the twist. Everything becomes different. What seems to be horrible and bad and disastrous for us here might not be. It might just be, something normal that we should, think of or praise at times instead of rebellion, revolt, and things like this. That's one of the great, I would say, for me at least, one of the great advantages of Spiritism for me. It's very logical, reasoning, and looking at things, looking at life from the other side. No wonder why Spiritism was brought to us by spirits on the other side. Not nobody here. They are giving us their version of things. They are giving us their perception on things. Comfort comes from the other side, not from this side. This side is the side of rebellion. Their side is the side of comfort. So Spiritism is very clear on this thing. And just to wrap up about the loss of loved ones, when we use the expression loss of loved ones, usually almost 100% of the times we are thinking about death. But I want to give you other things here. I want to bring more elements which also apply to the loss of loved ones. For example, hijack. You see, somebody passes away. Of course, you're not going to have them again, but there is a possibility, hopefully, a great possibility that this person, this now spirit, discarnate spirit, is doing well. It's a true possibility, right? Although you don't see that person anymore. Now, when somebody, a loved one, gets hijacked, you still don't see them. But the level of affliction and conflict that we go through is tremendous because we have absolutely no idea of what's happening. And when somebody passes away, we do have an idea. We know they can be in good hands, they can be doing well. Hijacking is complicated. It's a much worse situation in terms of losing loved ones. Think about that. So death is part of life. It's just a point of reference in our lives as immortal spirits. And I mentioned hijack, but there are other things. For example, obsession. People who are taken hostage by obsessors, discarnate obsessors. They leave our lives. We lose them. We lose them. They lose control. They give their lives away to the obsessor. Abandonment. People who just leave. One day they leave. You don't know how they're doing. It's a loved one that just leaves. You don't know how they're doing. You don't know if things are okay. You have no idea of what the possibilities are. So these are all types of loss of loved one. It's not only death. There are more situations and the ones I mentioned here. I want to thank you for joining us today. We had these kind of questions and answers programs selected from what we received throughout the year. So we like to do this every maybe 6 months or so. But throughout our lives, we can always take questions and comments and suggestions. Well, thank you very much for being part of this today. We are going to be here next Wednesday at 7 p.m.